morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We want to start today by talking with His Excellency David Comissiong, Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM. It's great to have you here, and you're here because of all of the other events that are happening across the region, but wonderful to have you with us this morning.
Yes, thank you, Tisha. I really should have been making my way to Grenada today for the meeting of the CARICOM Heads of Government Conference, but of course that has been postponed because of Hurricane Beryl. So we really want to talk about Beryl, what she has done to not only Barbados, but St. Lucia, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I think she probably has made landfall in Jamaica by now. So Beryl is presenting a real challenge to CARICOM at the very commencement of the hurricane season, and CDEMA is on the job. You know, CARICOM has a disaster response mechanism, so that has kicked into overdrive. The heads of government had an emergency meeting yesterday on Beryl, and yes, so that's what we want to talk about this morning.
Absolutely, and hopefully we'll be able to reach out to Jamaica. Beryl is still barreling through the region, and is expected to, be making landfall in Jamaica right about now. So maybe we'll be able to check in directly with them as we move through the morning. What was expected to be on the table, top of the table for the heads of government meeting that was coming up?
Well, we heard reports from Prime Minister Motley. She explained the damage that was done to Barbados, and of course she focused a lot on the damage done to our fishing industry. Many boats sunk, many damaged. So that's going to be a major challenge for Barbados. And this brings us to that climate loss and damage fund that's supposed to have been set up years ago. It's supposed to be, the developed countries are supposed to give 100 billion a year so that countries like Barbados hit with a disaster like this, we could have reconstruction grants. Those fishermen should not having to be now looking for loans to replace their destroyed boats, but we are still struggling with the developed world to get them to honor that pledge for the loss and damage fund that countries that are hit with these kinds of disasters could rebuild with grants. So we heard from Prime Minister Motley. We also heard from Prime Minister Pierre of St. Lucia, because we haven't heard a lot about St. Lucia, but St. Lucia was hit. Soufriere, he explained to us that the whole Soufriere waterfront has been destroyed. A cemetery in Soufriere has been flooded. Laborie, another fishing town, that sustained damage as well. But of course, the two major reports were from Prime Minister Gonzalez of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Prime Minister Mitchell of Grenada. And it was really a horror story, hearing about the devastation that was done, especially to Union Island and Mero in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and especially to CARICOM in Grenada. You know, we Barbados, we did not sustain a direct hit, but the hurricane went right through the Grenadine Islands, those small islands that stretch from St. Vincent in the north down to Grenada in the south. So Union Island, Mero, Canoan, CARICOM, Petit Martinique, yes, really those islands have really been devastated. And CARICOM, led by CDEMA, we now have a major job to respond to this disaster. People have to be injured, people have to be evacuated from CARICOM and Union Island. Emergency supplies have to be sent in. In fact, some of this has already started. There were two major Grenadian vessels that went to Trinidad for safe harbor, and which was very fortunate, because then the Trinidadians, courtesy of the CARICOM private sector organization, were able to fill those two vessels with emergency supplies and send them into Grenada. And similar efforts are being made for Union Island as well. But there's a lot of there's a major response that is required, and I came here armed with some details about emergency supplies that are needed, because both St. Vincent and Grenada have put out needs lists. These are the immediate needs lists, and these are items that they need very urgently. Barbados is the sub-regional hub for disaster response for this part of the Caribbean. And yeah, as you know, we have SEDEMA here. The SEDEMA headquarters is at Lower Estate. So any businesses, any organizations, even individuals who think they can contribute any of these items, there's a SEDEMA email address that they can contact SEDEMA. But perhaps I could just go through the items quickly, Tisha.
Absolutely.
So food and water, of course, they're talking about packaged food and water, dignity kits, generators, cots, tarpaulins, tents, bedding kits, mattresses, blankets, hygiene kits, water jugs, adult diapers, children pampers, flashlights with batteries, battery-operated lanterns, solar-operated lanterns, collapsible water containers, chainsaws, reflective vests. And these items are required for both St. Vincent and Grenada. You know, the two lists that were sent out were almost identical. And if persons or organizations, companies can make these kinds of in-kind contributions, they need to contact SEDEMA. And the SEDEMA email address is rccuser@sedema.org. rccuser@sedema.org. The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has also set up a disaster relief fund, and we have the details for that fund as well. Grenada, hopefully, the government of Grenada will soon set up their own specific fund. But the fund for St. Vincent, and it's always helpful to make cash donations, Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Kingstown, St. Vincent, Swift code NCBVVC22, and the account number is 137741. I think I gave this information to the producers, so I think they will probably put it up on the screen at some point.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
We've had it on screen for a while.
Oh, okay.
So
fine.
that everyone can see it. But it definitely calls for us to band together, as we always do, to be able to help each other.
Yes, and that's, you know, it's at times like this that we really realize the importance of CARICOM, of Caribbean integration and brotherhood. And that was exemplified yesterday, where at this emergency meeting, you had virtually all of the prime ministers, presidents, coming together, not just to express empathy and you know, to offer best wishes, but to offer practical assistance. So from Guyana, sending food supplies, and they'll be sending building supplies by this weekend, to Suriname. I mean, almost everybody, Dominica being willing to send personnel to help put back up electricity systems and so forth, to countries that might not be able to send personnel, but pledging financial donations and so forth. So it was a beautiful expression of Caribbean brotherhood yesterday. And so there's going to be a full-fledged response. Because, as I said, we from evacuation of injured persons to putting in a field hospital in Union Island, for example, because there's major damage, houses, schools, hospitals, you name it.
We're looking at a situation now where multiple Caribbean islands are going to be drawing really on the same resources to be able to rebuild. And that in and of itself will present a challenge.
Well, flash flood warning, sign of the times. So we have to get it into our heads that we are well into a climate crisis. And we are going to face climate challenges like we have never done before. And yes, fortunately, as a region, we had the good sense many years ago to establish an institution like CDEMA, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, where we brought together all of our national emergency response organizations and gave them this overarching regional body that helps to coordinate responses all across the Caribbean community. But let us look at the situation. The hurricane season has just started, and it's probably going to go into November, so you probably have a good almost 5 months to go. And CDEMA has to respond to Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Jamaica, possibly the Cayman Islands. The Caymans are just under Jamaica, and possibly Belize, because Beryl could very well head to Belize as well. So imagine at the very outset of the hurricane season, we have to respond to 7 climate crises in 7 CARICOM member states. CDEMA is going to be stretched. Their resources are going to be stretched, and I would just like to send out a general appeal on behalf of CDEMA as well. They have an emergency fund that obviously is going to need to be replenished. That our governments usually step up to the plate where that is concerned, but I'm sure CDEMA would welcome financial donations from any source, because this is going to be a long and very difficult hurricane season for CARICOM.
I think what a lot of forecasters reinforced as well is they're not accustomed to seeing systems of this intensity so early in the system. So early in the season. So if we start with this level of intensity so early, we're wondering about where it sets the scene, the trajectory of the rest of the hurricane season to go. I want to focus a little bit on Barbados though, because we saw a lot of damage along our coastal areas, and I know we've done a lot of remedial work in those areas, particularly along the south and west coasts. And even with all the remedial work that we have done, we've seen the level of damage that can be done, based on the excessive storm surge and so on from these systems. So what to say for the other islands who have not put the boardwalks in place? Because the boardwalk is lovely to walk on, but we know all of these are things that are in place to try to preserve our coastal areas. So even with that in place, we've seen so much damage, So moving forward, in terms of not only remedial work, as in fixing things back, but for them to be able, and certainly us, to be able to ably prepare for systems of this kind, I think is going to take a lot more of what you referenced earlier, that financing that we've been working toward, not only necessarily holding off on loans and things like that to be able to help ourselves in a manner of speaking, but to be able to truly get into sustaining our environment is the more important thing.
Yeah, well, yesterday at the meeting, Prime Minister Motley stressed the critical nature of insurance. Because if you have insurance, at least if you're damaged, you have the resources to rebuild. And she actually called for CARICOM to set up a task force to look at this whole issue of insurance right across the board. Of course, we have the CRIF, the Caribbean insurance, an insurance system which we set up to respond to disasters of this type, and they have these innovative parametric policies where they don't have to wait for a loss adjuster to go in and determine exactly how much damage has been done, just based on the ferocity of the winds, for example, the velocity of the winds. They can make a very quick early calculation and pay out something. But the CRIF is not it's not big enough, it's not extensive enough. So we have some very hard thinking to do. And this is why initiatives like the Bridgetown Initiative are so important. That component of the Bridgetown Initiative that focuses on the climate crisis and the loss and damage fund, because we are due. I mean, we are due this kind of assistance. It's not that we are asking for anything that is unreasonable. You have these big industries. You use those big industries to generate a lot of wealth for you, but you created all these greenhouse gases that has caused the global warming, and that has manifested now in these increasingly ferocious hurricanes that are afflicting us. So we have to go forward. Tisha, you said we have to do the preventive stuff, where we have to build better. And this is a message that has to go all across the region. We have to try to hurricane-proof our houses, maybe hurricane shutters. We have to try to hurricane-proof our roofs, for example. Barbados has now faced the houses that were damaged. As Prime Minister Motley says, vulnerable families, financially vulnerable families, the government may very well have to step in, and help those families. So prevention, what we can do to make ourselves more resilient against these climate disasters, but also as a region, we're going to have to look at how we could put better insurance systems in place so that we have the insurance funds to help us respond, but also all of the international advocacy that we are doing in relation to the Bridgetown Initiative, the Climate Change Loss and Damage Fund. These are things that we're really going to have to double down on, because Beryl is telling us, Beryl at the very start of the 2024 hurricane season, already having us overstretched in terms of resources to respond, is telling us that we are facing a very major challenge, and we're going to have to come together as a region and deal with it with good sense and with commitment.
Well, Ambassador, wherever you are and whatever is happening, we encourage you to come in and share with us so that we can bring our viewers up to speed on what's happening. And we just want to close by reminding you of your really your responsibility to kind of help. And we talk a lot about giving. I'm trying to choose my words wisely, because some people feel as though it's not necessarily their responsibility, but I feel as though we should give if we could. So let us help our brothers and sisters down the region, how we can listen out for the information to be able to share. Thanks again, Ambassador.
Thank you, Tisha.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning.